Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy. I got my co-host with me, Wale. What's up, bro? You all
Not
the way,
much, man.
you all the way from South Africa across the world, man. That's what I'm talking
I
about.
I know 9 hours ahead, but I saw what happened today in
Man,
the market, and I was like, this needs to be
this
discussed.
needs to be something need to happen, man. It's crazy, dude. Like the whole market. If you're sleeping on a rock where you just went to sleep early today, man, go outside, go look at the go look at the market. It's getting absolutely hammered right now. I think the futures is down. Let me see what the futures is down at. The futures is down. So Nasdaq is down 4.53%. Now imagine this. On a regular day, we see Nasdaq is only down like maybe 1-2%, maybe maximum 2.5. This is down 4.5%. And the circuit breaker, I think I looked at it. The circuit breaker at those things is allowing like 7%. At 7%, if it drops 7%, there's this thing called circuit breaker, which means they halt all trading for like maybe like 15 minutes. If it drops like 13%, I think the number that time goes out by a little bit. And if it dropped down to like 20%, yo, I mean, we saw that happen during the pandemic in 2020. If you guys were around when the market was dropping, we had a lot of circuit breakers back to back days. This just circuit breakers, market just halting. You know what I mean? Because everybody was just dumping like crazy, right? So
And I think
at
there's also a circuit breaker where if it gets too violent, the
yep,
whole market will shut down.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. It's a phenomenon that I got to experience for the first time in 2020, which was interesting. Oh man, the Nasdaq, the S&P is down 3.59%. Again, on a regular day, you see Nasdaq and the S&P probably down like 1.5, maybe 2% at the max, but 3.58% right now and dropping. And we are reaching really critical levels now. That September level, if we lose that level, I think we're gonna go down to that August level that we broke. And it's coming, man. I feel like we talked about that last
So
week or something.
we talked about this last week, but let me tell you something. My confidence in what I analyzed going into this week was shook. I was second guessing
Everything.
everything that I analyzed going into this week
Yeah.
because every dip kept getting bought.
And we
And the
saw that.
crazy,
Yeah. Yeah.
so this morning when the market opened and it was down pretty significantly,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is what we were anticipating, knowing what was going to happen on April 2nd. We every time we have seen the announcement of some sort of tariff, the market has sold off.
Yep.
Then today, the dip got bought and the market went
Immediately.
green.
Immediately. Yesterday. Same thing
And
yesterday. Same thing yesterday.
and when I tell you I was looking at my phone trying to figure out, did I miss any news? Did the man change his mind? Like, what did I do wrong? Because everything that I looked at going into this week was pointing towards more downside.
Yep.
And when the market was green, I mean, I was averaging down on my position because I put a put spread on QQQ and IWM. And I had to average down because I was like, this is not the type of move that I was expecting. And I
Nope.
think, if I'm not mistaken, we were green 3 straight days:
Yep.
Monday,
Yep. Yep. And
Tuesday.
we opened red, but then it just kept getting bought up. So it's like,
So I,
what is
I
going
caught a
on?
few scalps, but overall, the market went green.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I second guessed everything that I believed in going into this week. And I just told myself, I was like, you know what? If we open up green, I'm just gonna have to eat that stop loss and just have to, um,
Just
change,
go with it.
just go with it. And then all of a sudden, after hours, everything finally, and even after hours, the first move was still up.
Yeah, yeah. We went up. I think SPY was up like $6 before it dropped.
Yeah,
Yep.
before it
Yep.
dropped.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm happy that I stuck to my conviction, but I will say that conviction was shaken. I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
shaken.
Yep. So the White House unveiled a baseline rate of 10% on all countries. Like every country is getting 10% tariff, regardless of who you are. That goes in effect April 5th. So April 5th, every country, if you were importing or exporting, I mean, if we were importing from them, if they're exporting to the United States, they're gonna get 10% tariff, regardless of what country you work for, right? So an even bigger uh ones were against other countries for higher rates. So you see China and India and Brazil. I was surprised to see Brazil on that list. Like there was a bunch of like crazy numbers. I wish I can find
I got
the
a I
chart.
got a I got a list right here. So
Yeah, so
let me
go ahead.
just
Yeah.
read let me just read off a couple of these
Yep.
real quick. China, 34%. European Union, 20%. Vietnam, 46%.
Wait,
Taiwan.
Vietnam. Why? Hold on. What does Vietnam export to us that's so important?
I got another one. Cambodia, 49.
Oh my God.
Bangladesh, 37. Pakistan, 29. Sri Lanka, 44. This South Korea, 28. India, 26. Japan, 24. Taiwan, 32. Um, and they're saying that some of these countries have some ridiculous tariffs on US goods, which is why that they're kind of clapping back. It says
Mm,
that it says that Taiwan has a 64% tariff on US goods. Japan has a 46% tariff on US goods. India 52, South Korea 50, Thailand 72, Switzerland 61. So if these numbers are accurate, what Trump is saying is, okay, if you are tariffing the you know what out of our products, we're going to slap you
with
right back.
the same
And I'm
things. Yeah.
seeing it's not even equal though. It's not equal because there's a 90% tariff on Vietnam goods, and we're
Damn.
only slapping them with a 46% tariff. So I kind of, I mean, how should I put it? I get what he's trying to do, but at the same time, I don't know if this is how you go about doing it. We'll just have to live with the results.
Yeah.
But if those numbers are accurate, where other countries are charging, 50% or 60% or 70% on US imports, and he's saying that, okay, well, either you lower the number or we're going to do the same to you. Yeah,
But
like
here's my pushback on that though. Is like essentially how much is this country is actually importing from the
correct.
US?
That's what I was
You
going to
understand
say.
what I'm
I was going
saying?
to say that. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that when you look at the dollar amount of what they're importing, it's really not that much.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's not that much. So when you look at it like that,
And if they import from us, it's probably an essential for them to be able to afford to
that's
pay
true.
that. They literally need that product, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about countries like Taiwan or Vietnam or Japan and all those countries that's in the South Asia or Southeast Asia, like
Hmm.
those are companies that those are countries that like we get our phones accessories made at, like computer electronics products,
Hmm. Hmm.
some equipment like textiles and and shoes. If you go look at Lululemon. Lululemon dropped out of the sky once this happened. Look at Lululemon. Look at Nike. I think Nike was the other one too that got affected. But look at those ones that just dropped out of nowhere. Why? Because a
Wow.
lot of a lot of their businesses are in that area. That's where they get their product from. You know what I mean? So
Lulu,
guess what?
yeah.
Lululemon, yeah, it dropped by what, $20, $30 after market, after hours? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Closed at 282. I'm looking at after hours right now. It's trading at got to as low as 248. Ooh.
Almost $40.
Let's look at Nike. Nike is a $60 stock.
Yep. It hit that number we were talking about. I was like, nope, Nike's probably gonna go down to that. And lo and behold, here we are. But I mean, we are seeing a lot of American companies that's getting impacted. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
A lot of American companies getting hit. So what do we go from here? I have no idea. I don't know what those companies are gonna be doing. I don't know if these countries are gonna be like all of a sudden come to the table and be like, all right, let's talk about this and let's figure this out.
Hmm.
So we,
Wow.
we are definitely in an unprecedented time right now.
And the thing that's crazy is that even countries and even businesses that aren't necessarily affected by tariffs are down big.
Mhm. But
So
everybody's getting hit, which is
because if I look at I'm gonna just pull one up that I usually just go to, right? Look at CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike has CrowdStrike's business has nothing to do with tariffs. CrowdStrike went from 371 down to 350. So this is what I will say though. This is what I will say. There's two things that you also have to monitor when you look at what's happening with this drop.
mhm.
You're seeing companies that are going to be directly affected.
Yep,
Nike, Lululemon,
yep,
Apple, Taiwan Semiconductor. Direct effect based on those tariff policies, right?
yep.
Then you could also start to make a list of companies where their businesses are not affected by tariffs.
Facts.
Now, people are going to be like, well, why are those companies down? So when you look at the impact of what tariffs are doing on the global scale, what the fear is now is that US growth is going to slow down a
Mhm.
lot. And if US growth is going to slow down across the board, I don't care what your business is, you're going to be affected. So for some of these stocks like CrowdStrike, it's not about tariffs. That's not the reason why the stock is down. It's
Right.
about the US economy's growth starting to show weakness and starting to slow down across the board. Now, I'll be paying attention, right, to some of these businesses that aren't affected by tariffs and seeing how they respond over the
How they
next couple of
respond.
days.
Yep, yep, yep.
I'll be looking at those because a lot of the cybersecurity companies and some of these software companies that don't deliver physical products, my question is, will the high frequency algorithms or the institutional traders start to say these companies have an exception? Because we saw that a couple times earlier this year where tariffs got announced, markets dropped, but there were
Mhm.
specific pockets of the market that eventually bounced back pretty quickly.
Right.
I'm not saying that's going to happen across the board with some of these software names or some of these companies that don't what do you call it, that aren't directly affected by tariffs, but I'll be watching just to see what the heck happens. Like I'll give you another name that's down right now, but they're not affected by tariffs. Give me 1 second. And this is in Let me see how far it's down. Yeah, and it's not even down that much. Look at MSTR. MSTR's business has nothing to do with tariffs.
Right.
They basically take money or loan money to buy Bitcoin.
Mhm.
Their stock went from 312 to 296, 297. So to me, the reason why they're not down that big is because the market might have realized, okay, well, the Bitcoin business has nothing to do with tariffs.
Nothing to do with tariff. Yep. Yeah.
Nothing to do with tariffs. So we'll see how some of these other names start to trade over the next couple of days, and whether or not it'll be an opportunity or whether they get hit across the board just like everybody else. Because MSTR is one stock that I've been looking at that has held above the 200-day EMA and SMA pretty strongly after it kind of dipped below it.
Even right now, even with this drop, they're still
They're
sitting
still
above
above
it.
it.
Yep.
They're still above it. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So we'll see how this plays out. But I would be looking at those names and just make a list of say, okay, what businesses are not affected by tariffs? How will these businesses, how do they eventually hold up in this environment? And just watch and see.
Right. Right. The other interesting thing that I see on this report, it says each country will get the opportunity to negotiate a lower tariffs if they can come up with a plan. So this is still all up in the air, even though yes, April 5th, we're gonna implement all these tariffs. I mean, Vietnam can call tomorrow and be like, "Hey, dude, let's work something out." You know what I mean? Like, I think what you said still held true. Like, tariffs is being used as a negotiation tactic. It's nothing more than that. It's just like, hey, we're trying to make money for the country. This is the
Hmm.
only way we can do it. We're gonna put this on you. We're gonna put this pressure on you. Come back to the table and tell us what you can give us in order for us
And
to
it
work together.
And the thing is, you just don't know when those negotiations or when those deals are
No,
going to happen.
nope.
Like it could happen during the market hours. It could happen in the after hours.
Yep.
It could happen over the weekend.
Yep. Yep. So you might
So,
wake up in the morning and it's going the other way, you know. So the other thing that's interesting is the bond yields are actually down and the 10 years. What do you how do you what do you say about that? Because I thought it would be the opposite.
so bond yields moving down to me, that's more of a signal that people are thinking that global growth or growth in general is going to slow down.
Okay.
That's what bond yields are telling me. So when you have lower expectations of growth across the board, longer term bond yields tend to come down.
Mm.
When you have higher expectations of growth, longer term yields start to move up. Remember, like the 10 year, the 20 year, and the 30 year, the Fed doesn't really have a lot of control over that. That's mostly done based on supply and demand in the bond market and what expectations of growth are for people who are investing in those bonds. So if
Right.
those are coming down, that tells me that that's more of a signal that people are afraid of economic growth starting to slow down. So that is, to me, that's the driver for that. Yeah.
Man. So the other thing that kind of came out today, I was kind of shocked about is the employment survey that shows that the private sector actually grew by 155,000 in March. And the estimate was 122,000. And this is
Mm,
just for the private sector. This is not the government sector, right?
government
So
job. Yeah.
right. So that for me, that's kind of like a shocker to me. It's like, wait, the private sector is growing also for when it comes to employment and stuff. So that's for me, that's an interesting report.
So let me give you some insight that a friend of mine gave me. Shout out Winston Hill. I was talking to him on the phone or through text message. What he told me about the unemployment numbers that we haven't seen a big spike. He said, has the gig economy skewed the numbers? Because
Ooh,
think of it. So think of it. I lose my government job, right? I don't have a government job. I can do DoorDash, I can do Instacart, I can do Uber, I can do Lyft. And if I'm making good money, I can't receive unemployment.
right,
Like let's say I go full time Lyft or I go full time Uber or I go full time, DoorDash. Once you start making a certain amount of money over a certain threshold, you don't qualify for unemployment.
right.
So
That's
he's
true.
saying that has that option given people a buffer to not show up in the unemployment numbers? And I said, that's a very interesting take, and that's
Yeah.
possible.
But is it really
That
that big number of people that turning to gig economy? Like,
see, I said, that's what I said. We don't know what
right.
those numbers are. We don't know what those numbers, but the fact that that option is available
Mm-hmm.
could mean that that's why we haven't seen like these big spikes. Like you hear about all these companies laying people off, and we've seen unemployment go from like 4.0 to like 4.2 or 4.1 to like 4.2. I think we've topped out around 4.2, maybe 4.3.
Yep.
That might actually be a phenomenon that's helping keep unemployment sort of suppressed, where everyone who's gotten laid off has now maybe turned to these gig jobs to provide and to bridge that gap between their next full-time position.
Yeah.
That could be very, very possible, in my opinion. So that was a really good insight that he provided. So shout out to him for that.
That is an interesting take though. Like I would definitely say that's a very interesting take.
Yeah.
Um, the other stock that was kind of moving along really nicely today. I know your beloved Tesla. I mean, we hit like 280 at 290 something at some point. I think it's down to like 260 this morning. I mean, this evening. So another stock that's getting crushed by this tariffs thing, which I don't understand. Like, um, well, why would let me just think about this. Why would Tesla be affected by this? I guess going back to what you're saying, it's just people looking at slow growth and all these different things. So everybody kind of recalibrating probably. But
Hmm.
in overall, I mean, Tesla hasn't been having the best time this year. I don't know what went left for them in terms of Elon and all that stuff, but it's like it seemed like things are just not working well for them. So yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
why they're down like almost $30. Yeah, they're down like
I
$30.
I will I will say that his Doge efforts are not looking good. to people because again, anytime I think we had a similar phenomenon when he was going through the whole like
Twitter.
purchase of Twitter. Everybody's like, oh, he's distracted. He's not focused on the business. Anytime he kind of takes his attention away from the Tesla business, the stock pretty much gets pummeled. So another thing that you also have to worry about with Tesla is, you know, investors also give I guess, the Elon Musk effect a multiple on what the value of the stock is based on what he's doing as a person. It's not just based on just the business solely. Like when people feel like, oh, Elon's focused, the stock is worth more. Elon's not focused, well, the stock is worth less. So, I mean, it's a yo-yo of a like of a valuation from time to time, but I don't know. I still my only thing with Tesla long term is I just don't know how his reputation is going to affect um, other countries that he's like building his business in.
Yeah,
Like I think
yeah,
in the US, I don't think he's going to have too much trouble in the US. But China and like Europe, you're starting to see that his people are not as in love with his product anymore.
right, right, right,
I'll tell
right.
you, in South Africa, they love him out here, though.
For real, they do.
They love him out here. They
Seriously,
love him out here.
wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Because I know that he was getting some flack about this whole, you know, letting white South Africa move over to the U.S. because of like giving them like asylum or something like that. It was just
Mm.
crazy stuff. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
surprised, man. I am
Yeah. I've
surprised that like they really are in love with him over there. That's
Yeah,
that's
I've
interesting.
talked to a few people where I'm staying at, and I've just kind of brought up, what do you think about Elon Musk and all this stuff? And
Hmm.
they think he's a good. Now they'll say this. They'll say sometimes that the way he goes about doing things might be a little bit odd, but at the end of the day, as an investor, you're just looking at results, and can he
Right,
deliver the results?
right.
And so far, he's delivered. He's exceeded the results.
Mhm.
So they're just saying, you know, let him do what he do. So.
Yeah, money talk, man. Money talks. But the interesting thing is two things. So one is, I guess there's some rumors that he might be leaving Doge, stepping down from his
Mm,
position. So I don't know if he's
saw that.
leaving. I don't know if he's leaving Doge or he's just not going to be more in the front as of Doge as he is. You know what I mean? I think I,
That's true.
I think I think probably he's going to step down from being like the front face of Doge, and maybe somebody else will take that responsibility, and he'll probably
Hmm.
be operating in the background. So I don't know what's that going to do to the market. I think the market going to react positively today to that. I think that's why the stock was moving a little higher. But again, with the tariff and all this stuff, everything kind of got smacked down. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's gonna happen. When he's gonna move forward backwards.
And the question that I have is, how ugly does it get at this point? Like, how bad does it get?
Mhm.
Because at this point, I mean, who knows how long these quote unquote tariff negotiations are going to go for?
Right.
Like,
Right.
like that's the big unknown. And we all know that the market does not like uncertainty.
No, it
So
doesn't.
a lot of what you're probably seeing, what's the VIX at right now? Let's look at the VIX. Let's see. Let me take a look at the VIX right now. Okay, the VIX is not trading in after hours. Let me look at VIX futures real quick. All right, my computer's going really slow. Okay, VIX futures did not show up for me yet. I know why. VIX futures are up 6%.
Sheesh.
So we'll see. We'll see if we we'll see if we get back to that 30 level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Um, I think Tesla's probably gonna go test that 251 again that we created back Wednesday, April. What is this? When did we create this? Oh, that's from today. Yeah, probably gonna go and test that low again. I did not realize it was that low and it went up that high today. That's crazy. It opened up at 251 this morning. Well, it hit the low of 251 and then it went up.
Hmm. And I'm looking at the futures right now. Um, there has been somewhat of I guess you can call it a bounce. where we are off the lows. But I do not think that the bounce will hold because I'm looking at NASDAQ futures right now. There was a key level that I thought we would need to hold, and we breached it now, 19,099 on NQ.
Yep, we broke
So
right through that.
we're below that. And I'm looking at ES futures. The level I'd be monitoring is 5,475.25. So we'll see what happens when we get to that level if we test it. And the one index that last week, I said, what did I say? I said last week's PCE numbers tells us that we're not going to get any rate cuts with small caps anytime soon. Do with that information as you may. And we see small caps are down almost 5% today.
Yep. IWM got smacked.
Yeah,
He
and
got
IWM,
smacked.
IWM is down big,
Mhm.
almost 5% in the
Yep.
futures market right now.
Yep. Yep.
So if you
The
bought puts, you're welcome.
the other interesting thing that I'll see with I didn't know if you heard about this that so Elon's company XAI actually bought Twitter.
I saw that.
I was like, damn,
And
what kind of heist is this? This is crazy.
the word I will use for that is creative financial engineering.
Because ain't no money exchange. It's literally stocks. Like they didn't exchange any money, but the valuation went up, which is crazy.
And because it's a private company, I
Who
mean,
came
it's
up? Who
almost
came?
like he
Who came up with that
creative
plan? That's
financial engineering.
whoever came up with that plan is walking away with a boatload of
Yeah,
stocks or something right now. Because that's a crazy,
yeah.
crazy move, man.
I read somewhere that if you look at in reality that he's probably lost money. I don't know the details about that in general, but the fact that an owner of one company that's a private company can then buy the other private company, um, I don't know. That's just financial engineering in my book. Financial engineering to the and that's probably a reason why like he probably won't take any companies public
Mm,
because I wonder if it was a public company, if the SEC would let that go through.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Or the Federal Trade Commission. I don't know if
Yeah,
they would let something like that go through.
yeah.
So
I wonder how that affects SpaceX though. If he are able to take SpaceX
no,
public, then
he never taken SpaceX public. Heck no.
you don't think so?
He's no, no. After all of the hoopla he had to deal with Tesla, with regulators and the SEC and all that stuff, no, I
He's
have
not. He's not doing it.
no, nope. Because people go public to raise money. Like that's the incentive. You go to the public markets to raise money for the business. To me, I think he has enough confidence where he can say, I will go to the private markets if I need to raise money.
That's nuts, man. That is
So
nuts. All I know is I was like, this was a crazy deal that I have never seen anything like this before.
I've
So
never seen anything like that either. Nope.
that's a very interesting deal, man.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that before. So
Yeah. The other thing that I found interesting was I don't know if you heard about the sale of Chagos Island, which is a Mauritius. I think it's one of the islands that belongs to the Mauritius, which is a country in like I believe like East Southeast Africa.
hmm
Um, so I was doing some research on this because Mauritius is actually a place where a lot of people who make a lot of money. For example, if you're in the crypto world, there's a lot of crypto world people that's very, very rich billionaires in crypto world that live there. It is
mm.
because it's a safe haven for them for taxes and all these different things, so they can live there. So I was just trying to put the two together, like why have we decided to buy a part or a portion of that country? It's a small island that we're buying, but I was like, why did we buy this? So I don't know what the play is there, but I'll keep an eye on it to see exactly where we're going with that one.
Tax evasion,
I
tax
don't know if
shelter.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's something happening. some people probably going to be start running over there and building some properties there because yeah, they definitely have a tax uh, protection for a lot of people down there. So that's going to be an interesting one. Let me see what else we got here. Huh. I don't know where my note. I have a lot of stuff on my note, and he's all this disappeared.
Yeah, the one thing that I will be paying attention to um as we start to digest all of this like tariff information is what the Fed is going to say at their next meeting now that everything is kind of like in effect. Um, and I don't have my Fed calendar in front of me, and I wonder if we're going to get the first quarter GDP read for 2025 before we get the next Fed meeting. And if I'm not mistaken, there may not be a Fed meeting in April. There may not be one in April, if I'm not mistaken. So,
There's not the upcoming meeting is actually May 6th through the 7th.
oh wow, okay,
So we have this whole month, nothing.
nothing. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
well then,
I know what I was going to talk about. TikTok, man. TikTok is back on the news again. Amazon is putting a bid in, and I found this was interesting. The owners of OnlyFans have also put a bid in.
on TikTok.
And they're giving, I think they're giving them what, like 7 days or 3 days or some crazy numbers. Like it was like a 3 to 4 days or something like that to come up with a decision and pick a buyer. Basically, that's what the administration. That's what the administration is basically giving them. So yeah, I don't know who's gonna buy it. I don't know where is it gonna end up, but I don't know, man. What do you think
Do you know
about
do
Amazon
you know who the
possibly
high
owning it?
do you know who the highest bidder is right now?
I don't know, but I'm assuming Amazon is probably going to be the highest bidder.
Hmm. Yeah, so I I've been hearing rumors about Amazon sort of turning TikTok into like an Amazon shop where you can just directly buy products off of TikTok.
I mean, they
Almost
do it
like,
today. They do it today.
yeah. And I'm thinking that Amazon is trying to get that's their that's their angle on why they want the business. It's because they
Yeah.
can integrate it directly with their Amazon shopping platform, which is to me is not a bad idea. And when you have all of this customer data about what people are watching and what they're looking at and all this stuff, you can make more targeted ads to them as far as what you want to sell them. So I can
Right.
kind of see the synergies in that business. I don't know what they're going to be willing to pay for it, but and Amazon's got a bunch of cash, I'm pretty sure. So, I don't think it's going to be, they don't need to like, issue debt or, take out a loan or anything like that to buy the business, depending on what the asking price is.
Right.
I don't know
Right.
what Twitter's value. I mean, I don't know what TikTok's valuation is. It's a private company. I don't know, what they're valued at, but, I think it would be a business that Amazon's probably going to, we're just going to write a check here.
You just take it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think it'll be a
because,
brilliant move for them though, because people, if you go on TikTok, people like you have you have hashtags like Amazon finds or TikTok made me
mm-hmm,
buy or whatever. It's like
yeah.
most of those items comes from Amazon, so it makes
Mm,
sense for them to be able to like control that and and be able to even sell even more product that way. So yeah,
mm.
I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I would, like I said, I see what their angle is. I kind of see the synergies there. It's just a matter of how much are they willing to pay for that data, pretty much at the end of the day. It's the data that they're really after. So
Right.
like
Right.
Oracle, I don't know what Oracle would want to do with it, but Amazon, I can see how
Mhm.
that integrates with their business.
Yep, yep. The other thing that I saw in the healthcare world, Hims actually got a approval to be able to sell Eli Lilly's um drug, weight loss drug, right? And I think that
Oh,
kind of gave them a good, a good market run today. But again, everybody kind of got crushed for that. But we haven't talked about Eli Lilly and all the healthcare companies in a while, and last time when we looked at Eli Lilly, it was like we should have shorted this thing, and Eli is down to Eli is down to 797 as of this moment right now. And I think the high we were talking about it, they were in the 900s when we said maybe we should short this thing. Yep, it was like 935. Yeah, man, we should have shorted it.
And they actually made a comeback since dropping that because I think it got to a point where the valuation of Eli Lilly was trading like a tech company.
Yep.
Like the run it had at the end of 2023 going into 2024 was absolutely insane.
Yep. Yep.
And then when we started looking at some of the numbers, like the cash flow numbers, that's when we were like, this is an
Yeah.
easy
So
short.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the free cash flow because they were investing so much money into the business was starting to dwindle at a rate that was just ridiculous.
Yep.
And
Yep.
since then, the stock has been punished. And yeah, we've seen it. What's it trading at right now? Seven in the 800s. I
Yep.
don't think I don't think it's completely dead per se, but I still think that Eli Lilly's valuation was always a
It's a little too
little bit
high.
way too high for a healthcare company.
Yep. Yep. And I'm
So
surprised too because I think um there was an announcement about some tariffs for healthcare companies. I was kind of curious to see like how is that.
pharmaceuticals, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, how is that even going to affect them? You know what I mean? Like you
Hmm.
think about companies like Pfizer or Moderna or all these companies, like how is a therapy actually going to affect them? Some of those medication maybe it's not made here in the U.S. Some of the patents, like some of those things, like how is this even affect them?
I mean, I'm looking at Moderna, a stock that was traded at $217 in 2022 is now down to 26.
Yeah. Even
And
Pfizer,
I
Pfizer's down too.
and I think Moderna was a stock that I think during the height of after COVID
I mean,
was a
yeah,
$497 stock.
they were up there. Like when I
Is
say up there, they were up there.
$497 stock now trading at $26.
You know what? This is a good lesson for because I know people were hyped like when Moderna was hitting like that those high numbers, everybody was hyped. They're like, this is the company of the future. You know what I mean? They were talking about all different stuff that they're gonna come up with. But can you imagine if you held that thing or if you buy it, even if you buy it at the high like 400, thinking it's gonna go like 600, 700, without looking at numbers, without looking at the reason why they're running, like he just lost.
I mean,
Ooh,
there was a lot.
bro.
There's a few companies that had that COVID effect where I guess everyone was thinking that COVID was going to just completely change how the world functioned. Zoom,
Zoom was one of them.
Peloton,
Mm-hmm.
those two I put on that list where everyone miscalculated how the world was going to get affected.
Yeah.
Now here we're in 2025, and you got companies like JP Morgan with the saying everybody back in the office. So
Yep. They're forcing
yeah,
everybody in office. Yeah. Yeah. God damn.
which is another reason why you kind of have to in the AI market, you kind of have to say, is the world going to transform completely to be dependent on AI?
Mm-hmm.
Because Jensen Wong talking about a $1 trillion, you know, um, what's the word? Total addressable market by 2028. So that could be overstated. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not saying that AI is not going to be a part of the future. Don't get me wrong. It will be. But sometimes people can overshoot the calculations of what they expect over the next couple of years,
Right.
which is possible. So, you always have to keep that stuff in mind because if I'm not mistaken, I think the vaccine hype as far as like COVID vaccines and things like that, like a lot of that has dried up for companies like Moderna and some of these other companies out there.
Yep.
Because,
Yep.
for a stock to fall that much over the last, 3, 4 years, something is fundamentally wrong in the business. And they probably bet too big on COVID and not thinking about other drugs and things like that, man.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Miscalculated it big time.
I mean, you can kind of tell too. It's like, COVID is like if you say COVID now, I have COVID, nobody even flinches anymore. You know what I mean?
No.
we were living in a time where if somebody coughed next to you, you're like, what? Get away from me. You know, like people were like really, really, really paranoid about people
Hmm.
even being close to them. But now it's just like nobody cares. You got COVID, okay, go deal with it. Go get some rest, drink some water, you'll be okay. People treat it like just the flu now, right? So
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
not that crazy big monster anymore that people were scared of. So yeah, I mean, if you bet your whole bottom dollar on this thing being this big old thing that's going to be with us for a long time, then yeah, I mean, those companies they make money off of vaccines and drugs. So yeah, I won't be surprised.
Yeah,
Looking ahead,
they
uh,
fallen on hard times.
very, very hard time. So looking ahead, coming up, tomorrow we have the U.S. trade deficit reports coming up. The initial jobless claim also come up at 8:30 a.m. That's gonna be interesting to watch with this drop we're having. um, April 4th we have the U.S. employment report coming up, so we can see what the situation looks like there. And then next week, FOMC meeting minutes only. So there's no meeting, but it's just the minutes only coming up.
From the
They
last
come up,
meeting, yeah.
yep, come up 2 p.m. And then we have CPI on April 10th. Speaking of CPI, what are your predictions for that one?
To be honest with you, I'm thinking I'll be I don't know if the needle is going to move too much on the CPI front. I really don't think it's going to move too much. But the thing is, even if it moves slightly, the market could still the market can still react because I think if I'm not mistaken, that last PCE report only came in a little bit hotter on the core side.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was in line. Core was up 0.1%, and the market sold off.
Yep.
So I'm thinking possibly the same thing. Maybe everything kind of stays the same. Maybe we see a slight uptick in maybe one of the numbers, and maybe we start to see a sell off. But what I will say is that this tariff policy is going to give the Fed a hard time finding an incentive to
Yep.
cut rates anytime soon.
Yep.
To me, what will this is the Fed is not going to cut rates based on progress towards inflation. If we get a rate cut this year, if we get a rate cut this year, it means something's broken, and the Fed
Yep.
had to step in to save things from getting worse. That to me is when we'll get a rate cut, in my opinion. And I'm willing to stick to my guns on that for this year. That if
Mm.
we do get a rate cut, it's because something is broken,
Something's
either on the
broken.
unemployment side or something bad happened in the financial markets where the Fed says, okay, we need to intervene.
Right.
But it's
Right.
not that it's not going to be because, oh, we're making progress on inflation. Let's start to cut rates. No, that's not happening. I don't see that happening anytime this year. No.
Yeah. And also
Yeah.
we have PPI coming up also. Producer price index. That's also on the 11th at 8:30 a.m.
Hmm.
This is the report that basically shows changes in selling prices received by domestic producers. So
Yeah.
we'll
So
see.
this is basically the producer gauge of inflation.
Mhm.
CPI is the consumer gauge of inflation. Yeah.
Yep, yep. The other
So
thing that I'm thinking is going to be important is the Jolt job openings that's coming up. That's scheduled for April 29th. So
okay.
that's the jobs actually measures like vacancies, right? Like what number of jobs is still open from
Hmm.
March. So I think I don't know why they set it up for 9 o'clock this time because typically I think it comes out like at 10 a.m. Eastern, but this time it
Mm,
actually comes out before the market opens. So
okay.
I don't know.
We
That might
also,
be
and I think on the 30th, we also get the first reading for first quarter GDP. So 29th and 30th, I'd have my calendars marked for those days.
yep.
Those are going to be some important data points that we're going to have to take a look at the end of this month. But I I don't know. I am you got to put on your seatbelt and hedge your long-term portfolio. So, and this is another reason why I kept saying if you're going to be buying in this market, I'm not saying don't buy, just be prepared to buy some more.
Yep.
So you just in this environment where things can flip at the drop of a dime or at how should I put it? Just unexpectedly based on headlines.
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with buying good companies, you know, solid companies. Nothing wrong with buying them now. but don't think that, oh, I got in at the right time. Nope.
Right. Right.
Nope.
Right.
You
Because
have
we
to
because
put yourself in a position to be able to keep buying until this thing turns around.
absolutely, absolutely. Because if you notice, a lot of people thought they were buying a good time when we closed above that 200 EMA for a couple of days. Everybody thought, oh, we're out
Hmm.
of it. Nope,
Hmm.
we got crashed, and the dip keeps on dipping. It just if you've been listening, man, we said don't deploy all your money at the same time. Do
Yeah.
not do that because
Yeah.
this is what happens. So
Yeah. Because we made pretty good progress above the those longer term EMAs for, I think it was like 2 or 3 days,
yep,
and then everything just kind of came crashing down. So, if you're a buyer in this market and you are looking to buy stocks of companies you like, um, nothing wrong. And another thing I will say this is there's also nothing wrong with waiting. But if
absolutely.
you're waiting, thinking that you're going to get in at the bottom, you got to change that mindset.
Mhm.
Change that mindset because you're not going to be able to time the bottom in this environment. I don't care who
Right,
you are.
right.
So if you're waiting and you're saying, I'm not comfortable buying, I want to see a little bit of progress, longer term progress before I start buying, perfectly fine. But don't sit on the sidelines because you think that you're going to be able to get in at the exact right
That's
time.
exactly.
No,
Yep, yep, yep.
no. So, you know, be again, the word I will use in trading this market is prudent. Be very prudent and be very diligent about and be realistic about the
Absolutely.
fact that stocks can continue to go down. Because again, there's institutions buying some of these, like today. You saw what happened today
Hmm.
with the stock market.
Hmm.
That's institutional buying driving the market. So you're seeing institutions deploying cash into the market to
They're
start
stepping in.
buying.
Yep, they're stepping
But
in.
they're going to have to reassess those prices come tomorrow and figure out, okay, do we keep buying or do we wait?
Yep, yep.
So,
That is
but
interesting though to see like them deploying money even like at that level, not knowing
correct,
what's gonna happen with
exactly.
April 2nd. So that for me that's a little strange that was
So if you
happening.
if you're seeing institutions, I mean, if you look at the last 3 days, right? If you're looking at institutions, they're the one that have been moving the market the last 3 days and buying. So if
Right.
they're buying and they weren't able to time the bottom, what makes you think that you can time the bottom?
But the other thing too you gotta think about is they're the ones selling. Like when the
They
market
are
drops
selling
like
too.
crazy like
They
that, they're the
they are
ones
selling
selling.
too. They are
So
selling too. That's
they
correct.
they're probably buying the market up, and then maybe retail traders come in, buy it at the high, hold the bag, and then knowing that this is gonna happen, they sell off, and then you left holding the bag at that high level. You know what I mean? So, and then you're gonna panic. You're gonna sell it at the lower level. They're buying it from you, right? If you're selling something for a loss, somebody's buying it from you, knowing that
Hmm.
it's gonna go the other way, right?
Yeah.
So
Same thing with options contracts. Yep.
yep,
So,
somebody's thesis is in play when you're selling it to them. They're like, all right, I'll buy it from you for this price, but you thinking like, oh, I'm selling it for a loss, but that person is buying it because they're thinking it's gonna go the other way. So same
hmm.
thing with stocks, man. Like a lot of those institutional traders, they know what they're doing in the long term. They know what they're doing. So yeah, don't get caught with those, holding the bags and stuff. And I'll say like this week, I'm with you, man. I was confused this whole week, so I didn't trade until today. Today was like the first day I actually deployed some money into the market. I was like, I'm not trading at all. So it was like knowing now and seeing how the market was moving, like toward the end of the day, I was like, okay, maybe this is a good place to get in here. But even that freaked me out
Yeah.
too because we were so
I'm telling you, I was utterly confused
yeah,
because I put on my put spread. I saw that making like we were making like good progress, but we weren't able to really like close at the highs a lot of
right.
times. We would see
Yep.
things kind of pull back some. So I have a spread, which is good in situations like this. So I was just like, okay, I'm still kind of feeling comfortable about what my strategy is right now. Then today, I'm telling you, I was really sitting here like, what did I get wrong? I'm checking my phone for news. Because I'm in another country, I'm not getting the US news. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I get wrong? So I'm having to average down on my position. Like I wasn't down a ton of money, but it was to a point where it made me feel like maybe I should get out. And then I saw the announcement that it wasn't like the the administration changed their tariff policy. They just delayed it until
They
after
delayed it.
market close. So when I
Yep.
saw that, I was like, that looks like just market manipulation.
Yes.
So I said that just looks like manipulation. So I just kept putting things in play, and I have, you know, a good amount of puts that I swung going into dang, what's today? Going into Thursday. So hopefully those, start to pay off. And you
Yep.
can even see with futures though, because we're off the lows, people are still trying to buy.
People are still trying to buy it. Yep. Yep.
Because the Nasdaq was down over 4%. Now it's only down about 3.75%.
Yep.
So people are still trying to buy. But to me, the overall thesis is still bearish.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
still bearish.
Yeah. I
So
mean, we definitely at a place now is like there's a lot of opportunities. If you were waiting to deploy some money, again, this is probably a good place to deploy it and get, not all of it, just a little bit. But um it's still, man, like going to tomorrow, we'll see how the market holds with the opening tomorrow and see how the market reacts, when the US market opens in the morning. So we don't know how it's gonna look like. But yeah.
yeah.
Any advice, any suggestions, any encouragement going to going to this end of the week?
Let me see.
What
I
do
got a couple. I'm only working off one screen, so I got a couple of questions in the chat box.
Okay.
We got Benson saying that they tell you come to work. Correct. Manipulation at its finest. And once they pushed the announcement back 1 hour, I knew something was up. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. I got to a point, I'm telling you, I was sitting in a corner talking to some of my family members, and I was just like, what the heck is going on?
Mhm.
Because I thought we were gonna when I saw the opening price action, I said, oh yeah, we're just gonna sell off the rest of the way as we start getting more announcements of tariffs.
Yeah.
And then when I saw that pop, I said, what the heck?
Yeah, but they did
But
it on purpose though.
yeah,
It was on
mar
purpose.
market manipulation. So
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
aside from that, like I said, if to me as a trader, this is a market where if you're not experienced, you can get chopped up.
Yep.
So be very prudent with what you're doing. But if you're an investor, there are opportunities there. You just have to be very patient and you just have to be prudent. And if
Yep.
you do those two things, to me, you have to have the mindset that whatever moves you make this year will not pay off this year. And if you tell yourself that and you're comfortable doing that, to me, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll be fine. So, but if you're looking at, oh, I'm expecting this to pay off by, call it December, November, October, it may not. But if you tell yourself that I'm looking long term, this might take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Like I'm looking at my Oklo stock. Oklo's down to like about $20 now.
Oh yeah. I have Aklo going down to 19. No,
Yeah,
17.
yeah. I think there's going to be a little bit more pain there as well. But again, I've told myself, and I've taken some profits along the way. I haven't taken
Yep.
all my profits out. I've taken some. But again, I've told myself that this is a trade or an opportunity that has going to have a longer term trajectory of when it will really, really pay off. And I'm just going to stick to my guns there. Now, we start trading under $5, start trading under $4 where I initially bought, then I got to make some reassessments.
You
But
might start
until
questioning
then,
yourself.
I might start questioning myself. But until then, I'm just gonna have to be patient with this trade. So we'll see
Yep.
how everything plays out. So
Yeah. But with that being said, bro, I hope you enjoy yourself in South Africa, man. I hope you have a tremendous time. Take pictures, eat good food, and
oh man, I am stuffed right now. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. I am
Dang, I didn't
full.
realize it was that early for you. God, and
Yeah,
you wide awake.
2:56. I'm awake, but as soon as I wind down,
You're
I'm
gone.
knocking out. I'm
That
knocking out. So
that jet lag is gonna hit you in a little bit.
yeah, but regardless of where I am in the world, I'm committed to giving the people
Yes,
good
sir.
information.
Shout out to you, man, because I'll be like, nope, y'all, your own.
I don't know if I'll be able, maybe Friday. I might be able to make it Friday. I'm not sure. I'll let you know, but I
Okay.
plan to. But the wedding that I'm attending is on Saturday, so I at
Oh,
least want to
gotcha, 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 gotcha.
make sure that I
Okay.
get some rest on Friday. So, but maybe if we do something Friday, maybe we'll just keep it very short.
Yep,
So
yep, yep. Well, if
unless
you can't
unless
make it,
there's some
man.
Yeah, unless there's some groundbreaking tariff changes that we need to talk about.
But yeah, man. Anyways, man, like I say, I appreciate you showing up, man, and giving it to the people. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on things going into Friday. And if we are on, you guys will see us. I'll post it on our Instagram page to let people know that we are on. But other than that, man, like I said, stay safe, have fun, say hello to the family, and yeah, y'all have a good night and good weekend. Oh,
All right,
good
everyone,
weekend,
take
good
care.
day.